Hey guys, Pratima here with yet another unboxing and review video. This time I have the new iQOO 9 with me, which was launched in India just a few weeks ago. But before moving forward, let me clear up one thing real quick. The Indian variant of the iQOO 9 is an entirely different phone than the iQOO 9 that you'll find in China. For starters, the Chinese iQOO 9 brings the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip compared to the 888 Plus on this one. These phones also differ in terms of their cameras and the camera housing, besides a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, the iQOO 9 arrives in this typical iQOO style packaging with the BMW Motorsport partnership highlighted right at the top. Now, opening up the box, we see the phone itself. We got the Legend variant for ourselves, which is decorated in this tri-colored stripe that's meant to invoke a racetrack feeling or something. As for me,
I just think they're neat.
Apart from this, the iQOO 9 is also available in Black Alpha color option that has a textured layout instead. Now, putting the phone aside for a moment, we have some paperwork, a SIM ejector tool, and a transparent case. iQOO ships a compatible 120-watt power brick inside the box alongside a USB-C to USB-C cable too. Oh, and look at this, there's even a USB-C to 3.5mm audio adapter here. As for pricing, the iQOO 9 starts at 42,990 Indian rupees for the base 8 128GB model, while the 12 256GB variant costs 46,990 Indian rupees. But if you're someone who can afford to sacrifice a little, like the cameras and fast charging capabilities, I think the iQOO 9 SE is the best bang for your buck. For almost 10,000 Indian rupees less, it offers similar performance in form of Snapdragon 888, an equally good display, a fairly capable set of cameras, and even a larger battery. Okay, now getting back to the regular iQOO 9, this phone means business with its premium glass sandwich body and metallic frames. I mean, I am team matte back all the way, and this soft matte finish has a fantastic hands-on feel. Plus, that BMW tri-colored stripe I talked about earlier adds a unique visual flair, while I don't mind this non-occlusive iQOO branding at all. It's also curved on the sides for a more comfortable grip. Alright, moving on, the phone retains excellent heft as well. And thanks to its even weight distribution, this 200-gram slab does not feel all that heavy either. I will say that the frames could have stayed a bit more flush on both sides for seamless ergonomics, but I guess I'm just nitpicking at this point. Like most phones in iQOO's number series, you'll find all the buttons on the right side here. They are incredibly easy to reach with one hand and have great tactile feedback too. The power button also has a distinctive blue color and a textured finish to further spice up things a little. The only thing that's missing from iQOO 9's premium design is an official IP certification. There is a rubber gasket protecting the SIM tray from moisture buildup and such, but seeing how similarly priced phones like the Xiaomi 11T Pro and Motorola's Edge 30 Pro bring at least some form of IP rating, iQOO is at a minor disadvantage here. Besides a terrific looking design, the iQOO 9 impresses with its display as well. Just look at its spec sheet. 120Hz refresh rate? Check. 10-bit color depth? Check. 1200 nits of peak brightness? Check. With all this, colors look vibrant and retain great contrast levels on the iQOO 9. Plus, this screen does not suffer from color shift when looking at it from sides either, and I am especially amazed by its natural white balance since it produces close to natural color tones. The embedded in-display fingerprint scanner is also fast enough to unlock the phone, and I like how there's this subtle haptic feedback during the unlock process itself. Its 6.5 inches Full HD screen also gets more than bright enough to stay visible under the harshest lighting conditions, so that's great too. With Wideband L1 certification and HDR playback support, this is also an incredible companion to binge watch your favorite shows and movies on streaming services like Netflix and Prime Video. Complementing the media consumption experience, its stereo speakers get plenty loud and deliver rich audio quality. I would have preferred a more balanced output from the top and bottom speaker units, but that's fine, I guess. Add the 120Hz refresh rate into the mix, then you're looking at one of the best displays for the price. Having said that, I feel like iQOO is being a little strict with the adaptive refresh rate here. The thing is, unlike the premium iQOO 9 Pro, the standard iQOO 9 does not have an LTPO 2.0 panel. So this screen can only switch between 60Hz and 120Hz. But that's not the issue I'm talking about. With the smart switch option turned on, the phone defaults at 60Hz in some of the most common apps like Chrome, Spotify, and Messenger that would rather be more visually pleasing under the smoother 120Hz mode instead. We had the same issue with the Vivo V23 Pro as well, by the way. And in case you're unaware, iQOO is Vivo's subsidiary company, and both companies share the same Android 4 called FunTouch OS. Seeing how both the Vivo V23 Pro and the iQOO 9 feature a relatively modest battery, this aggressive optimization could simply be a power-saving technique. Okay, let's get into the performance side of things now. Powering the iQOO 9 is the Snapdragon 888 Plus chip, which is simply Snapdragon 888 with an overclocked CPU. Fluid everyday performance is pretty much a given for such a powerful phone, so I was more interested to see how it fares in terms of gaming. To ensure that the thermal stay in check, iQOO says that it has used a large vapor chamber liquid cooling system, but my brief gaming tests show that that's not enough to cool the dragon inside. While PUBG plays smoothly at Ultra HD graphics and ultra frame rates, the phone gets noticeably warm within the very first 5 minutes of the game. 20 minutes in, I recorded the peak surface temperature on the front and the back of the phone at 37 and 38 degrees Celsius respectively. On the other hand, I was surprised to see that this phone hit a constant 30 FPS in Genshin Impact even when I'd kept the game settings to 60 FPS mode. Only after turning on the frame rate boost option did iQOO 9 manage 42 to 45 FPS at the highest graphic settings. Under this, there's a noticeable frame drop every now and then, whereas the phone got almost uncomfortably hot after just 10 minutes of gameplay. I will be testing out the full gaming potential of the iQOO 9 for the full review, so make sure that you're subscribed to our channel so that you don't miss out on that video. Apart from this, the iQOO 9 also has a couple of other gaming tricks up its sleeves. In fact, this is the only phone in the iQOO 9 series with an in-display pressure-sensitive button that you can assign as controls in different games. Then there's the dual X-axis linear motor for an immersive gaming experience as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the iQOO 9 runs on Vivo's FunTouch OS. FunTouch OS 12 based on Android 12 to be exact. Besides a few bloatware apps, the overall UI and UX experience is pretty clean here. iQOO promises 2 years of platform and 3 years of security updates for this phone, which is a year short of what Xiaomi and Oneplus promise for their sub-flagship phones like the 11T Pro and 9RT. Although I appreciate the Android 12 experience out of the box, I strongly believe iQOO should update its update policy to at least match the competition. Moving on, the iQOO 9 looks like quite a capable camera phone too. The triple camera array at the back includes a 48-megapixel Sony IMX598 sensor with gimbal OIS, a 13-megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens with a 120 field of view, and a 13-megapixel telephoto lens with 2x optical zoom and a 50mm focal length for portrait shots. Compared to the 9RT, I found that the iQOO 9 boosts white levels in daytime shots, but it does have a comparatively more natural color science as opposed to the vibrant saturation and warmer hue of the Oneplus 9RT. It's the same with ultra-wide-angle photos, where the 9RT goes with punchier colors and high contrast. You can even notice over-sharpening going on here. On the other hand, portrait shots come off a lot sharper with superior contrast and black levels on the iQOO 9. The 9RT goes with a rather unsettling pinkish skin tone and soft details instead. Selfies share a similar story as well. I'm also fond of the normal nighttime images from iQOO as it manages to let in more light and therefore delivers a better dynamic range. But that comes at a cost of slightly lower contrast. With night mode turned on, I like how Oneplus 9RT maintains better contrast and the overall images look more pleasing here. On the videography front, both phones can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS. With my brief time with the iQOO 9 so far, I haven't managed to shoot a lot of videos, but based on the samples, I prefer the ones from Oneplus 9RT across all the resolutions, be it in terms of exposure control, saturation levels, or contrast. While both the phones maintain a similar level of stabilization at 4K 30 and 1080p 60 FPS mode, you can clearly see that iQOO crops the frame a lot to achieve the said stabilization. Once again, this is just a preliminary test and I will be reserving my final verdict of its cameras for the full review. As for the battery endurance, the iQOO 9 has stayed in my pocket for just about a day now, so it's clearly too early to tell. But if my experience with the V23 Pro is anything to go by, Vivo's vigorous battery optimization should help offer at least a day's worth of battery life under light to medium usage. Charging it up is real quick though. According to iQOO, the phone's 4350 mAh battery can go from 1 to 100% in just 18 minutes. So yeah, the iQOO 9 is quite an interesting premium mid-range phone that is geared towards both mobile gamers and smartphone camera enthusiasts. And for the most part, it's certainly managed to leave a good impression in my limited experience with the phone so far. But for what's supposed to be a generation-on-generation upgrade, the iQOO 9 is still a lot more expensive than last year's iQOO 7, although it does bring a more powerful chipset, a more versatile camera setup, and faster charging speed. So guys, that was all for my unboxing and mini review of sorts of the all-new iQOO 9. I will be comparing this phone with the Oneplus 9RT, so if you guys have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. Till then, I'm Pratima and I'll see you in the next one.